A man has a choice. I chose the impossible.
We are getting a Bioshock 4 aimed for a 2022 release, and there is some exciting news along with some not great news. If you were playing games in 2007, there's a good chance this looks familiar to you. Bioshock was Ken Levine's spiritual successor to System Shock, a beloved PC game of the 90s. The idea was to reintroduce audiences to the immersive sim genre with a modern foundation, and it seemed to work. Bioshock released to critical and fan praise. A few years later, a sequel released to less praise, with the main critique being more of the same. It's worth noting that Ken Levine and the studio responsible for the first game did not develop the second. Instead, they were working on a different entry, Bioshock Infinite. Bioshock Infinite released to much anticipation in 2013. It seemed that Ken Levine and his team had done it again, scoring high praise from media and players. Yet since then, we've heard nothing but murmurs from the franchise. Since Bioshock Infinite's release, Ken Levine had gone off to start his own studio, Ghost Story Games. And other than rumors of a Bioshock film, it seemed like this franchise had had its day in the sun and was willing to watch it set. At least until December 2019, 6 years later, when publisher 2K announced Cloud Chamber Studios would work on the next game in the franchise. And on December 3rd this year, we got some information. Journalist Colin Moriarty shared details about the upcoming Bioshock that Video Game Chronicles later corroborated. After the underwater city of Rapture and the floating city of Columbus, the next entry takes place in Borealis, an Antarctic city during the 1960s. Moriarty also stated that the new entry will tie into the previous game's story, which isn't hard to imagine considering the ending of Bioshock Infinite. Making a sequel, especially in a franchise as beloved as Bioshock, is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it will immediately get attention and probably sales just by being associated with a franchise that is so well received. On the other hand, it will also likely be more harshly scrutinized as it's compared to the original. Here we have a third edge. Ken Levine, the creative director behind the original Bioshock and Bioshock Infinite, is not a part of this entry, but is currently working on a different immersive sci-fi game published by the same publisher, 2K Games. And it seems that Cloud Chamber Studios are aware of this X factor, with Colin Moriarty stating, quote, "The inclination there is that they understand full well that this game will be compared to what Ken Levine does," end quote. Bioshock may have lost Ken Levine over the years, but it still has many other developers who were key players in the original creation, such as Jonathan Pilling and Scott Sinclair. While Ken Levine is definitely the man most accredited for Bioshock, it would be foolish to think he did it on his own, and to have the rest of the team working on this new entry is promising. So this is all good news, and it has me interested in the latest edition that, delay God's willing, will come out next year. Unfortunately, there is some bad news. Now, this will come down to pure personal preference, which is good as hopefully most of you won't have an issue with this. I'm talking about this job listing, specifically where it describes the new game as an open world game. I really don't get the industry's obsession with creating open world games. At one point it was attributed to dissuading players from trading in their games by adding dozens of hours of game time, meaning that it is more likely to sit on a shelf and not add to the second-hand game market where developers and publishers didn't see any profit for sales. However, this market has already been turned inside out with a large number of digital sales. It feels like game time is still a concern, like publishers want people to be playing their game for months to stay relevant and perhaps buy skins or something. But this feels like a circle hole square peg situation. Not all games will have that kind of lifespan, and forcing game time for the sake of game time results in a poorer game. I don't know, I'm no developer or publisher, but I don't get it. A few weeks back, I made a preview of the upcoming Halo campaign where I said this. But I, and I'm sure yourselves, have played too many open world games with nothing meaningful between campaign plots except mindless fodder ticking off an extensively dull checklist. All while upgrading abilities that either feel like they should have been available from the start or feel meaningless. I'm currently writing this on the day Halo comes out, so I personally don't know how that turned out. Regardless, if I was, or technically still am, dubious of 343 being able to make an exciting and more importantly a meaningful open world, I'm even more doubtful the Cloud Chamber Studios can. I hope I'm wrong on both games for that matter. I want Bioshock 4 to be good, no rational person will hope that a bad game gets made, but this has me worried. Though, there's not much to do but wait and see, so good luck Cloud Chamber Studios. You've taken on a challenging project, I hope it works out, and I hope we get an amazing Bioshock 4.